Good day, everyone. The other day I was looking at TikTok or Instagram or something, and I saw a meme that says, Sundays are always the same. They start with brunch and end with existential dread. And when I think about when I started teaching, that was absolutely the feeling, because I thought it's similar to my students. So when students didn't wanted to finish something over the weekend, I said, you're never going to finish it over the weekend. And they say, yeah, I am. Yeah, I am. And I was like, no, let me tell you what your night's going to look like, or your weekend. Tonight, you're going to say, I'm going to do it tomorrow morning, because tonight I'm just going to chill. I've had a long week at school, and I'm just going to play. My guys would just say, instead of playing video games, they would say, I'm just going to play the game. I'm just going to play the game tonight with my friends. I said, then tomorrow you're going to sleep in a little bit too late. You're going to chill. You're going to watch some show or many episodes of a show, play video games, and then it'll get to like around dinner time or like later tomorrow, and you'll say, you know what, I'm just going to do it. Like, I'm just going to chill tonight. I'm going to do it on Sunday. I can get it. I have all day on Sunday. Then you will wake up late again. You will play video games. You will watch football for the entire day until you freak out Sunday night because you didn't get it done. And then you're asking me Monday if you can have an extension. And I think teaching can feel the same way. Even if you do work all weekend, it is very much that feeling. So that's why we have Sunday Night Teacher Talk. It is a way for us to create space to be together so that, look, I'm telling you what, even if you're feeling like you have that existential dread, even if you feel like it is like you're freaking out because of tomorrow, that you have other people to bounce ideas off of, to know that you're in the same boat, and hopefully to help you recalibrate a little bit. So with that, that's why we do this. And do you have a question? Because I have a mentor call immediately after this today, and I want to make sure that
do.
So I can't go past 3.
I got it. Okay, Amber is up first. I think this is a question for you. My department is very small. Other teacher is still struggling personally and professionally, impacting our collaboration, PLC, and her students. What's the best way to handle this situation?
2.
I like that you read it after I read it.
Well, sometimes I do. I like to read it breath. Like that guy in Shrinking who says,
I cannot stand it. If you all watch it, he's so breathy, it drives me crazy.
We were watching something else last night, and you were like, oh my God, their breathing is bad. I'm like, what's up with you and breath lately?
My ears are very sensitive to it. I hope I'm never breathy on our live.
No, I do that all the time. Okay.
Please answer the question.
I am. I'm just doing it like this.
Oh, goodness.
I think, Amber, part of it is, does this other teacher understand that they're having an issue? Do they want help? So do they get it? Because I've seen folks. I talked with a woman one time. I'm going to go slight tangent. I talked with this woman who's not nice to me. I don't know why. This is first year of Boys Latin. Remember this teacher, Claire?
Oh, no, I don't.
Yeah, so if I explained it more,
Okay, go ahead.
You would get it. But Claire, well, that's all we'll call her. Claire didn't like me, and I won't even go into why. But she used to do that thing where like kids weren't acting up in her class. And like, if you said like, so yeah, I'm having a hard time with like this student in my class, they'd be like, oh, they're great. They're great for me. I don't even know what you're talking about. And it was like on a level where it was like, you're just trying to stick it to me for no reason. And so one day I had to go in there to get something. There was another teacher in the back of the room. I went in to get something, and her class was disastrous. And I was like, oh, I don't even think, like, I think you don't realize like what a good class looks like. So that's why I asked, do they know that their class is not going well? Do they want help? And then I think it's trying to find them the help they need, but then also do it in such a way where it's doable. When I try and help folks with classroom management, one of the things I want them to do, so it's really like, we're going to start at the beginning and then pare it down. So the one thing I want you to do is to make sure that the lesson is like concise. A lot of classroom management issues come from folks that are just talking and talking and talking and talking, and they like to lecture and they like to hear themselves talk, or they think they need to say all this stuff. And it's like, there's different ways of communicating that. And I think we could actually pare it down and make it like more digestible for kids. So that's one, like overview of the class. Is this a class for students, or is this just a class that feels safe for you to teach? Even if it's not going well, because people will stick with what doesn't work because it feels more comfortable than trying something when they don't realize that it's hard either way. So just choose your hard and just try stuff and have it be a failure and be a laughing stock. Risk that over what are you losing? Like poor behavior anyway. The other thing is helping folks from the beginning of class walk through each thing. So like, how are kids coming into my room and what are they doing as soon as they get in there? Let me get that unlocked the first 2 to 5 minutes. What are they then doing when they come in? What's the first thing they do every single day? What does then, here's the big one, that transition to the next thing. So it's not just doing something interesting here, doing something meaningful here. It's how you get from one to the other as quickly as possible with no issues. And then you just build from there. Doing that over time is going to build confidence, and confidence is the key to classroom management. You could be a horrible teacher, and what I mean by that is like no one's actually learning in your class. You're not good at communicating information. You're not good at anything, right? Like kids come to your class, they don't learn. But if you have confidence and you can have classroom management, kids will be quiet. They will be slightly attentive. They won't disrupt you or disrupt others. But that comes from confidence. I think it's the key to doing this. The other way that we get confidence is by doing and doing and doing and doing and doing. And I remember when I was young, I remember when I first started going to see concerts. And for the dorks out there, my second concert ever was Rush. And so I remember watching Neil Peart play drums, and I thought, oh my gosh, is he so nervous that what if he's going to mess up? Then after I played drums for years, I remember playing a gig and I'm like, you never mess up. Even if you mess up, you have a way to like stylistically like make it look like you didn't mess up. But you're not so much thinking about what you're doing anymore. It's just flowing from you. That we help teachers to get to that place of flow. So look, without it being a plug, but it's there and it's a resource, and this is why I made it. If your school's interested, you can reach out to me. And our classroom management workshop that we did last year, it's a 4-part workshop that is that schools buy for teachers. And it happens regularly, or teachers just buy it for themselves. Comes with the resources, comes with the breakdown. It is over 4 hours of content that's going to go through. It's the most comprehensive thing I've ever made about classroom management before. So I would maybe, that's a possibility. Like if that teacher is interested in that.
So let me ask you a question.
Please.
What if, because there's only 2 teachers, it's only her and somebody else. What if, and the teacher is struggling personally and professionally, which is impacting everything. What if this person doesn't want to change, doesn't want like those small step, like how is Amber supposed to deal with this? Like how is Amber?
Well, Amber said they're in her department. I don't think it's the only other teacher. Like
it is. It says my department is very small too.
Yeah, but the department is like if you're an English teacher, it's the other English teacher.
Yeah, I understand, but that's who then she's given in a PLC to like collaborate with. And how do you collaborate with someone who's going through such turmoil personally and then even in their job professionally, and it's impacting like everything that they do? So my question for you is, you gave advice for like how that they can like change in the classroom specifically, but how is she supposed to deal with on a professional level? Like how is she supposed to deal with this other teacher that, I don't know, when they come in and have a bad day and they can't collaborate together, or all she does is complain, or I don't know what the things that the other teacher is doing, but especially when it's not just professionally, but it's personally. It's like, how does Amber deal with someone like that? Should she go to her administration and ask for support if you've tried 1,000 things? And sometimes when people are in that mindset and frame of mind, they also just don't want to change, right? Some people like sitting in their misery or their hurt or
sure. And so what do you do when you have to be around someone like that?
Yeah, and collaborate when you're supposed to collaborate with them. Like,
I think
any advice on that level?
I think one, you don't look at it, you don't go to it for collaboration. And that's unfortunate, but it's the fact of the matter. That if someone doesn't have creative, exciting, interesting ideas, then I'm not going to ask them. That would be like me wanting to take my marriage to the next level, and I'm going to ask someone who doesn't even like being married to their spouse. Like, why would I ever ask them, like, hey, here's a thing I'm thinking about doing for my wife this weekend, and they're like, what? Like they're not going to give me good feedback that is going to help me take it to the next level, which is what I'm looking for. So one, it's that mind shift. And then I would figure out, like, what's your PLC going to be? What's your real life PLC going to be? Maybe you find people in our Facebook group. Maybe you find people on here. Maybe you find other teachers that you met at a conference or something, and like meet up with those folks and create that real life PLC, not just the one that you have to do. The other thing is, I think it's so important to go into those moments armored up. Like, you know, you're going into this, you know how they are. Now this is a little bit of a personality thing too, Amber, but what's worked for me is like, I like that you're laughing at me, that it is,
because I always know something absurd is coming, or like, just not even absurd, but like something so different, because you just,
well, I mean, maybe it is, but like what I would say is, like, you're going in and you're willing to listen to an extent, willing to take stuff to an extent.
Yeah.
But then after that, it's like being able to somehow shut it down and turn it to,
because you can't become that person's doormat, like,
or just like their sounding board, right? Where they don't want they just want to, like,
complain, release.
Yeah,
it's a release. So like, for some people, it's like they don't have to go to therapy if they have someone that they can just kind of like dump on, because they feel better after they do it, essentially, which is great. But like, that can't be your only outlet, and that's what I mean by a doormat, because poor Amber will get beat down and exhausted and burnt out just from having to be around that.
So it's much. Amber not dimming her light, keeping, like, if you love your job, go in there, love your job to their face. And what I think that does is it actually makes people stop a lot of times, because folks see that, like, when I would have PLC meetings, they knew that I didn't want to talk about drama, I didn't want to talk about nonsense, I didn't want to talk unless it was like useful drama to me, so I knew like what was going on,
right, with students
or whatever. But it wasn't like, I'm not going to just sit here and complain. I don't loathe the job, like, and that made folks like just not want to talk to me at all. And I'm fine with that, because if that's where we're going, I don't want to talk about that. I think the other thing is Amber needs to go to her admin and say, look, this person's having a really difficult time personally and professionally. I'm not sure how to help them, but my PLC isn't particularly useful. Can we partner with, English fits so well with other departments. Can we go in with the history department? Can we squeeze in with the art department or the specials or whatever? Like, how do I create that? That's what I would look for too. But go get that help from someone else and see what they think, because this is not your burden to bear.
Yes.
You can only show up and be loving and kind and your authentic self. Listen to that person, of course, but then know when the boundary is, so that you can get done what needs to get done. And then going to admin, because that's part of their job, is helping to find answers for that particular individual.
So Tracy in the comments made 2 really great points. She said, make the effort, document, but do minimum for collaboration. And another thing she said was, your job is not to do theirs, which I think is clutch, right? Yeah. It's like, you can be a kind and loving and compassionate person, but you also have to have those boundaries. And this is where I think like protect your peace comes in, and it's like protect it at all costs. Like, you, Amber, have to be very cautious of your own peace and mental health and space, when you're dealing and having to work so closely with someone like that. So
Yeah.
I hope that helps. Best of luck to you. Ruth is up next asking, looking for real easy ways to grade written work, giving feedback in journals right now, but 180 students is a lot to grade.
It is.
It is.
So
What you got?
I think rubrics help. But it's making them so like, what are the essentials that I need to see, Ruth? So like if I'm doing journals, what are the essential things? I can't grade for 23 things, especially journals. I used to grade a lot more in when I had students write journals. What I do now is I have a sheet every week, and each day is basically, I think it's like out of 4. So 0 is you didn't do it. 1 is like you kind of sort of maybe did it. 4 was excellence, and then 3 was somewhere in the middle. I'm just reading through it. Did you do the whole thing? Is everything capitalized? Like, because this is the class I'm teaching in high school. Is like, is it everything capitalized? Are there a ton of grammatical errors? Spelling I never grade for because there's so many kids that either just can't spell or they're dyslexic or undiagnosed dyslexic, and it's like it's not even worth my time and effort. That's what I get for having written assignments instead of typing where it shows you that it's spelled wrong. But anyway, that allows me to go through at the end of each class or while the kids are working on something and just a little bit at a time, like just rock through those journal entries and get them done for the day. I'm grading them every single day so that at the end of the week, all I'm doing is basically adding up scores and then inputting. Then I trade them, I give them to a student, they put them in order for me. Then they read off the grades for me. So I have a kid from a different class, read them for a class that they're not in typically. And then I just input those grades. And then they're done before I even leave on Friday. Now, there's different writing assignments that I grade for different things. Journal entries are just one of those ones that it's journal entries to me are about you sharing your voice, you connecting what I'm asking about to your life or to the reading or something like that. It's a bigger concept than just grammar, vocab choice. It's like, it's trying to get kids to read for grit and to connect things bigger. Now, when we're doing essays or short answers, now I might go a little bit deeper and really grade for like looking at textual evidence, looking at citing things correctly. I'm going a little bit more in the weeds with that, but that's my students know that on the front end. Even when I do that, here's 5 things maybe that I'm grading for in this particular section. I'll tell you this. If you're struggling with that, it's like bounce it off another teacher. So the way I created my rubrics even, and the way I created my entire curriculum was at one point our school decided to get aligned. We wrote our own curriculum, and everything I did in the 9th grade led to what was going to happen in the 10th grade. Not the way I taught, but the way that I was going to grade for things, the way that my tests looked, like what are the different types of sections on a test? What is the vocabulary on the test? Each year built on the other. And so I was working with other people, and that helped me to realize like the best way to do some of those things, what to grade for, how much to grade for, how in depth we needed to go, so that each year was a building block that was, helping us get to this goal of having students at a certain place. So yeah, but I find that rubrics and just grading for less stuff helps you get through it far quicker.
All right, Gian is up next asking, what do you do to gain attention for a very chatty class?
Mostly one, it's having the conversation, and I want to address behaviors all the time. I never want a behavior to go that I don't address, because I think it's important. It's not just about shaming you and blaming you. It's about helping you to see what's actually happening. And I think some students don't realize how talkative they are or how talkative the class is, especially if that's the norm in your school. Like they might, but I'm still getting the work done. But Miss Lopez lets us do this in her class. It's like figuring out what the norm needs to be for your class. And then what are you asking students to do, right? It's being mindful of like, is what I'm asking reality? Because I say this because there are teachers that they want kids to come in silently, move to their seats silently, sit down silently, do the work silent. It's like, bro, what? And then they're going to have 8 periods a day of silence. Like, this isn't a monastery. So because monasteries have like way better food. So that's part of what I'm thinking of. The other thing is I want things to move along quickly. And so I am giving short chunks of lesson that are timed either in real time. You'll see a timer on my board, or I'm just in my head and I'm letting folks know, all right, we're about halfway through. All right, you got 1 minute left, 1 minute left. I see some people that aren't done yet. 1 minute left. I don't keep talking and talking and talking and talking because I don't want to distract other people. I'm not trying to build anxiety. I'm then watching and kids that aren't doing because they're just talking, right? And they're not doing the lesson. They're going to learn real quick when I take those papers and collect the work and you got a 0 because you were talking the whole time. And I don't care how much you're like, no, Mr. Reynolds, wait. No. And I'm not talking about students that are going through something, right? I need to draw this distinction. If you're going through something, if you're having a hard day, if I saw that you were crying, if I know that you broke up with your boyfriend, that's different. I'm talking about the same kid that shows up every single day, never shuts up, talks the whole period, distracts everybody else, doesn't get their work done. And then they're like, wait, let me do it tonight. No, you and ChatGPT cannot do it tonight. So I time them and then make sure things are moving at a clip. The other thing is trying to institute things that are interesting, fun, or cool. But then we can only do this if I have the cooperation that I need. If I don't, then we just can't do it. And I am not like, I want school to be fun and entertaining and amazing. If I can't go there with a class yet, I just don't do it. And I know that sucks for the kids that want to do it, but this also shows those students that when you're laughing and when you're reacting rather to the nonsense, then you're just as bad as the person that's doing it. You're not helping the situation. So I want to talk to those students about their behavior too. I know you didn't start the argument, but you were laughing and carrying on and whatever. It's helping kids to see what they're doing. It's creating a class that moves along quickly, trying to make it engaging, and then pulling back on the engagement if you can't get there and letting them know like, hey, look, this is where I want to get to. So it might look like this. Today, right? We have this opening activity and then I want to do something fun. I can only do something fun if I have 100% of y'all done the opening activity, whatever that is, your pre-class, your bell ringer, whatever. Then I'm like calling kids out. And if we don't get there, I'm not looking for 90%. I'm not looking for 98%. I'm looking for 100%. Why? Because that's what I said. If I wanted 98%, then I should have said that in the beginning. But I'm a person of my word. I want to have integrity. And if I say it and I don't get it, then that's how it's going to be. And then we move on.
All right. Tristan is up next asking, how do you deal with an admin that gaslights? My admin tried to convince me that I am always going home sad, even though it is not true. First of all, this is where my sass comes out, and I want to tell I know. I want to tell an administrator, it's like, or anybody that says that they think that they are like saying you feel or think something. It's like, how? You in my head? Like, you don't know. Like, I get real angsty when that gets, to me, it's just saying, I think you could politely probably say that of like, I'm just tired at the end of the day, but it doesn't mean that I'm sad or not happy or don't like my job. Like, some people are more low key than other people. I've had to explain that to CJ when we were first married. Like, he's super, like, everything is awesome all the time. And I'm more just like, low key. Like, I just don't get like uber excited about things. Although it might be great and awesome, I'm just not like, wow, you look woohoo, like you are. And that's just a difference in personality. It doesn't mean that I don't like it, that I'm not excited, that I don't enjoy something. That's just who I am. Yeah. Don't let them do that to you. Do you have a nice way to say that? Because I just get like.
It depends on what your connection with your administration. Because I've had an admin where like I'd be walking down the hallway and if they were like, "You look sad every day that you go home," and I'd say, "No, that's just when I walk by you."
I was gonna say I get angry and like annoyed and pissed off, but like you get real.
It would just make
sarcastic.
It would make sarcasm come out. Right? Like I just like every day I know I have to walk by you. I just feel like this. Or stopping them and saying like, "You say that all the time. I am not sad. Like, let me let you know that I'm not sad. I'm just in my head. It's just the end of a long day. I'm just thinking about a lot of stuff. I'm just like." What's that?
So Tristan said, when I tried to disagree, the admin just shut it down, saying that they were not going to argue with me. I would say, you can think what you want, but you're not in my head, so I can't prove it to you. Like, I don't know, you think what you want.
Or I would just walk out like super happy, walking down the hallway.
Right?
And when you see them,
dramatic.
"Hey, man, I'm glad to see you.
Like
have a great."
Like a
if I don't
cheerleader,
see
like,
it,
hooray!
have a great afternoon, good morning, and good night.
That's a good one.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night. That's what it was. It's like, you see, like I might handle it like more of a jackass, but I do that because
what they're doing is even ridiculous.
Yeah, because they don't. It's like they're not looking to have like clearly.
No,
they're not looking to like have a real conversation.
Yeah.
To help you out.
Yeah.
To work this out. It's like you're just making me feel like crap. You probably do this to people all the time. I might even think of like, I'm going to go out a different way. I'm going to leave school. It's like, there's certain times where there are people like that. That's like, no, I just don't want to walk by you.
Leave 5 minutes later, or like shift your route or something, like to
because
avoid
other
that
folks
person,
don't get the joke. They don't get the sarcasm. Like when I had that assistant principal, Fisher, she was the worst. And I had her office was right in front of the bathroom. And so I'd have to walk by her. So I just started faking phone calls every single time I went to the bathroom. I just pretend I was on a phone call.
I'm going to go take a phone call in the bathroom.
And yeah, I'm like, of course I'm talking while I.
There you go. Fake a phone call like as you're walking out the building, Tristan. Like, yeah, that sucks. I don't think that you have a whole lot of control, because that seems like it's someone else's control. You know to be your truth, and that's all you can kind of like go with.
Yeah. I used to fake phone calls too, where I would take like the phone from my classroom that no one ever used. So it'd be like the phone handle and the cord. I just plug the cord into my pocket and I would pretend I was talking on it. And then no one even knows what to do. They're like, "What the hell is he even doing?" And I'm like, "Yes, it's important." I would do it in the hallway.
I was going to say, like, if we're
getting through no questions.
I know.
Today.
If you carried a purse, they have a new phone. Have you seen this purse that like has like an actual phone to it, and you can like you can plug it into your cell phone? It's pretty amazing. Yeah, take that with you and walk through the hallway. No, Tracy, again, dropping some gems today. She said, "I started to say to people, I hope you have the day you deserve." It's a kind snarkiness. I love it. Oh gosh. Okay.
Tracy, I think people in Ohio I thought that was the East Coast, like.
Right? That's total East Coast.
More urban vibe.
Well, I mean, she's on the East Coast. She's not far.
She's not on the East. She's in the Midwest.
Oh, well, she's not far from the East Coast. It's rubbed off. Okay, Amber is coming in with another question. She said, "I have a student teacher this year. I have heard your advice to student teachers, but what is your best advice for being a good mentor and cooperating teacher?"
I think it's letting them take over early, take over some things fully, and then allowing them to fail and being there for them non-judgmentally when they do, to help them out. That's, in a nutshell, when I student taught, I would argue that I had the best student teaching experience I could ever have hoped for. I don't know that was better than anyone else's, although anyone in my cohort at school was way better. And it was because of that. I took over classes early. I took over classes entirely. Like I was in charge of grades, putting grades in, calling parents, doing conferences, creating lesson plans. Now I had someone there to help me through some of that if I needed questions, but they would let me screw up. They would let me do things wrong. They would just let it ride out. And then at the end of the class, they would sit in the back. They'd have notes and never made me feel bad, but just kept it 100% real. And I think that's part of it. I'm not trying to, I've not had full on student teachers, but I've had folks that were like pretty close to that. Even folks that voluntarily were kind of close to that, because folks would come from like different colleges in the area and then come to my classroom and then just show up every week. It was me being easy with you does not help you, because admin's not going to be easy with you. Parents aren't going to be easy with you when this actually goes. So it doesn't mean I'm being mean. I'm just direct. Addressing the things that need to be addressed. And that can be difficult, but it's what's necessary.
Okay. So our next question comes from D-Rom.
D-Rom.
Which is so funny because this is our daughter's friend. But he's asking a legit question. So let's
extra credit if anyone knows what D-Rom's profile picture is. I know what it is, but if you know the character or the show. Anyway.
Okay, he's asking, how do you manage time effectively in the classroom, especially when dealing with different student needs?
Well, D-Rom, if I was your teacher, I hear Marley
laughing in her room.
I would know who you were. I would build a relationship with you, and I would watch episodes of that particular show that we're looking at here, right? That's Deltarune, I think.
That's not what he's asking.
No. This is I'm getting to that.
Okay.
So then once I know you and I know what you're about and I know what you're interested in, I would also start picking up on the sense, because I'm putting that time into you, how you learn best, how you connect best. So if I have a student like my son Brody, who would give a live presentation every single day and would completely love it, right? There's a reason he's the school mascot. Whereas Marley would die, maybe. I think she might actually die if I said, can you come up to the front of the class and give this presentation? She would just like turn into ash, like at the end of the Avengers movie. Knowing that, I would create learning opportunities that would stretch you, but not break you. And I would do that using all of the things that you like in class. I would reference those things regularly, so you felt like your teacher actually had an idea of who you are, what you liked, what you needed to learn, had an idea of where you were, where you needed to be, and then use those things to stretch you to get to that next level. And then you find the similarities in students in class. So you're not if you have 30 kids in class, you're not doing this like 30 individual assignments, but I'm starting to look for patterns. Does this particular period like projects? Do they like group work? Do they like working individually? Do they like working quietly? Do they like kinesthetic learning? So like going outside and doing stuff and creating, like when we do the Odyssey, I have my students like follow me around the school, and they have to jump over fences and climb under gates and go upstairs and downstairs and jump over railings and all this stuff. I have some classes that love that, and other classes that are like, no, I never want to do that again. I thought I get no physical activity, and I thought I was going to just fall over and they'd have to call an ambulance. So I know not to do that with that class. That's how I do it.
So, but how do you do that as a teacher? Like, how do you manage your time effectively in the classroom when you have so many different students?
It doesn't matter what I want to do. So I manage my time. I mean, it's all about looking at,
like, you have so many different student needs, as in like someone's a slow processor, someone's ADHD, someone is a super fast processor, and they get the stuff super fast, but you have to make it enough space for someone who processes slow. How do you as a teacher deal with that when you're dealing with student needs on that level?
So I talk a lot about not managing classrooms, but I think that's the part where, like, if you're really talking about, when we talk about classroom management, what we're really talking about is classroom leadership. That is classroom management, and that is important. Mm-hmm. So it is knowing who is good at what. It's knowing who you can go over to and they say they're done. You're like, I actually need this from you, or oh, Bet, great, you're done. Can you go help? Like Marley is struggling with this, with problem number 2. Can you show her how you did it, and break it down? Can you help me grade this stuff? You have to. It's kind of like
to know your students to be able to do that.
Yeah,
like
because
who
you're
is who
because
in the
you're moving around, right? Teaching like a DJ, you're trying to you need to move all the people all the time. So that's why I'm not sitting there. I'm never sitting there grading while kids are. I'm never doing anything else like trying to get work done while kids are doing work. I'm constantly moving around to see. It's like kids are a bunch of plates. I'm trying to figure out which ones need to be spun. But the beauty is sometimes they can have other kids lead. Sometimes they can have other kids help. Sometimes, so it's doing that as well.
Okay.
I try to really get away from this idea of having to feel like I have to do everything myself. Do not get extra credit, teachers, for doing it all yourself. So if you need to employ the help of the internet, of ChatGPT, of a student, of a co-teacher, of a student teacher, of a para, don't just ask them for help in the moment. Like, give them things to do. So like one of the ways I did that, actually think about it, was when I had co-teachers, they owned parts of the lesson.
Yeah.
They didn't just like sit there and wait for me to or just like go around and help kids. Like Kayla taught stuff, and then I taught stuff. And when I wasn't teaching, I was getting my next thing ready or helping kids out while she was teaching. It was like tag team wrestling all the time.
Got it. We don't have any questions right now.
That's fine. We give the questions. We answer the questions that need to be answered. So, look, a lot of you are on fall break this week. Some of you are like, what is that? Here, where we are, my kids have all.
I didn't even know.
No.
Like, they were done, and it was like, oh, you have the whole next week off? I was like, what?
They're like, what are we doing? Work?
We're like, y'all better figure it out.
I know.
Cooking? I'm cooking. Like,
no. D-Rom, do you have off all next week?
Let's see if he's
still on here. I'm testing you, D-Rom.
So, I wanted to say, Tracy she said she's 5 miles from the PA line. Close enough.
That's like saying you're from the Poconos. That doesn't mean you
5 miles? You get a little East Coast cred. She gets a little East Coast cred. I'm going to give it to her.
All right. That's how we're going.
Look, Gwen said they're off all week. And Tracy, that's usually what I'm used to, right? You're off Wednesday,
we would
Thursday,
get
Friday.
half day Wednesday,
yeah,
off Friday, or off Thursday, off Friday, and then back the next week. Our kids have
all this week off.
And then, including weekends, like 17 days off for winter
Christmas,
break.
17
days. What? I feel like when I was a kid, they
Chris
were like,
Carson's off all week also. Good gracious, that's so funny.
Alabama would be doing a different talent.
Oh, look, Ruth popped in with the question. I love it.
Yeah, hit it.
Let me click the button. Any suggestions for lessons the day before Thanksgiving? We have school.
I'll tell you this. I do something. First, so that might sound dumb. I do not show a movie. I do not even just play a game. I find there's so many games going on. I keep it regular, but on the light side. You're still coming in. We're still doing a journal. Can we have an interesting activity? Can we find a way to sum up what we've been doing? Can we find a way to, if I'm going to show a clip from a movie or something like that ties into what we're doing, there has to be, I want to keep consistency always. But what I'm looking for, the whatever students have to basically hand in, I don't make that overbearing. I don't make it hard. I don't make it difficult. I realize it's right there. And here's why. I have found that although I love holidays, so we were watching, we still watch church on TV. We cannot find a church that we really, really jive with here yet. So we're watching church on TV today, and the pastor's talking about how raise your hand if you have if Thanksgiving is a time of year where you have to see people that you don't want to, even if most of your family you really enjoy. If there's going to be people that you don't want to, and we said no, we have for years we have not had to deal with that. We've just not chose not to deal with those people anymore, and so I don't have people in my life that I don't want to be around.
Holidays are a joy for us.
I realize that is an unbelievable blessing that I have, and that most of my students, not only are they like not enjoying who they're around on Thanksgiving, or don't love the strife, or their drunk uncle, or mom and dad now get back together because they're both going to be there, and how that chaotic is that going to be? But maybe you don't have somewhere to go. Maybe you don't have enough food. Maybe it's not enjoyable at all. So this time of year brings up all kinds of stuff for kids. So that's why I want my classroom to be consistent. It's actually a gift to you, and I want to be gentle with you going into break. Um, and that also leaves me the space to love on kids a little bit extra that I know need it going into that time.
So you do a lighthearted lesson, but you keep it still connected to kind of what your curriculum
It's
or
so my classroom has a rhythm every day. I do not deviate from the rhythm.
so, but she said she's looking for something generic that any teacher can do and looking to share with her team. John suggested in the comments.
I really went on long on my first point. I never even got to that part. I have now realized. But go ahead. You're right.
So John said, like, have you considered drawing a tree of gratitude? I think everybody has something to be grateful for, even ones people that don't have the best home life. It's like getting them to see what gratitude is, even on the smallest level. And I like that idea. I think that's
So I would say I think my teacher appreciation thing would work well here too. That I totally stole from someone else. Miss Maloney had this idea first, where you create like a for slower classes, like, and I mean like classes, not just like, what do I mean by that? I mean classes where I know if I ask you to write 5 to 8 sentences to someone, it's going to be like that's like the longest thing ever, and you're going to have to really process it and really think about it. It's going to take a really long time. So maybe for some of those students, I have sentence starters. From some of my classes that move faster, I'll have them build that out a little bit more and work a little bit more independently. But I used to have kids decorate cards different times of the year for people they were thankful for in the school. Who makes your day better just by being here? And it doesn't just have to be a teacher. It could be a staff member. So maybe it's the lunch folks. Maybe it's the custodian that helped you get your locker open. Maybe it's the hall monitor that always says what's up and like gives you a high five in the hallway. It makes you love seeing them every day. Who is it that is really wonderful? So I might go in, have a journal entry about gratitude. Then I'm going to watch some brief video about like, something motivational and inspirational, and it's going to make me cry. And then, all right, every day at school, there's somebody here that makes you, even if they don't make you love school, they make you hate it less. Who helps you to hate this less? And then you're going to write something to them, and then we're going to hand them out at the end of class or at the end of the day or whatever. And so teachers and folks in the building are getting letters, and that's a great way to send staff into break also, like, because they're feeling burnt out and tired and worn out, and it's like to get a bit of gratitude from someone is really wonderful.
That's a great idea. Okay, Miss Kelly in middle is needing some help with getting my students to lock in when we do math notes, and then also use class time to do the homework.
I think doing notes, kids expect it to be boring. Is there a way that it could be fun? That it could be less work? Like, is it, I found that like, I used to do guided notes only for kids that had IEPs. I realize it benefits everybody. Like, kids just cannot write. No one writes anymore. So they just can't write fast enough. Or they're trying to listen to me talk while they're writing notes. So if I'm doing notes, can I make them in shorter chunks and then sort of create some, like, the practice of doing that becomes something that's a little bit fun or interesting or cool. And then I do my next set of chunk of notes. So it's like, for me, it's always been like paring things down. So if I think about a lesson that I have, like Shakespeare, that has a lot of notes. I mean, all my books have a lot of notes on the front end, or Persepolis, which is like so much base knowledge you have to have, so much prior knowledge to bring in to even understand that. where we're talking about the history of Iraq and Iran and Afghanistan and who certain cultural figures are, from Mahatma Gandhi to Ronald Reagan. It's building that out, but figuring out, is there a more interesting way, fun way that I can do this? So I'm going to have you write down some notes, then we're going to watch this video. I'm going to have you write down some notes, then I'm going to have you do this thing where you have to figure out where the notes go. It's just, I think it's trying to become more playful with how you're doing it. And that doesn't have to add a whole lot more onto what you're doing or how you're planning. It's trying to think of ways that, like, what would this look like if it was 1% or 5% better? How would what I'm doing be a little bit more interesting? And then start looking for those ways, right? Start looking them up online. I mean, I'm glad you asked here too, but it's like, what are ways to make note taking more interesting? And then you get a better percentage of kids that are kind of doing that. So I'll say this. Actually, does that apply?
I wonder if you could do like, you know how people do like doodle notes or sketch notes, if you can do that with math notes.
Maybe, but maybe even with part of it, right? Like there's a section.
Just giving the freedom to allow some like art or doodle or creativity in with your math notes. Like, I think that's why that type of note taking is successful. So I would look into seeing those. Like, my daughter would love that. I mean, she doesn't necessarily do that, but there's tons of doodles already just naturally on all of her pages.
Yes.
But if you incorporated the two, it could be fun.
I'm thinking of Chris Bombagno did one of the coolest things I thought ever once, and I can see how you could tie this into notes, but he used to do it for reviews. So you have a group of kids working on a math problem. Every single time that they find the answer, they have to run up to you. You check it, and if it's right, then they get a letter. And so there's maybe, say there's 5 problems to, 5 to 10 problems. Each time they come up and get a right note, then they can go back to their seat, and they have an app on their phone that is a piano, and with the letters on the keys. And then they type in, they tap on the letters in order to try and see what the song is. So if it's Itsy Bitsy Spider or something like that, the first team to get the song, so you incentivize getting the answers right, because that's then fun. You're going to get the letter. Once you get the letter, you can go back and start the next task. Once you get all of them together, it's kind of like Survivor.
I was just going to say, right? It's a Survivor game.
Yeah. Like, at the end of it, you get all of them, and now you have to tap them in,
solve the puzzle,
and get to the front and call out the name of the song first, and then that's how they.
That's really fun.
Yeah,
that's a great idea.
But it's finding ways to sort of incentivize what we're doing here to make it more interesting.
Yes, great answer. So Sean Alexander, do you know? He said
Sean Alexander. Yep.
Yeah, he said he wants you to know that I got my associates in education working on my batch.
Nah, my man, I forget. I can't.
He said, I still remember you showing us Shake the Dust. That stuff.
Yes, awesome. And he's Smudge. So, Sean, what was your nickname in high school?
Oh.
I am blanking on it. And I like that this is my big question. I cannot remember what your nickname was in high school. I want to say it was Lieutenant.
Let's see if he answers. But there's another question.
Awesome. So good to hear from you, man. I'm glad you're doing well, dude.
Michael is asking, what do you do if one of your students has a crush on you, and then after she graduates, she contacts you to hook up? Would I lose my job?
I think ethically, you don't want to be that person anyway. I mean, coming from me, I just don't want to be that person anyway. What do you do when a student has a crush on you? I think I try to distance myself as much as possible. I have been alone in my classroom with students before, but if I know that someone likes me, I just make sure that never ever happens. The door is always open. There's always other people around and in there with me. There are enough people in the world to hook up with that I don't know I need to do that with a student. So here's where that becomes, even if we look further, where does that become problematic? Is that now, so you're on a date with someone that you used to teach. The question is going to arise, but was this happening before? And is this someone we have to look out for?
So I want to just say, that is the problem, is that you're going to get so much like potential speculation of like, oh, if you're, I think you technically could do it. I don't think there's anything wrong because they graduated and then they're just out in the world, right? Like they're a full-on adult.
Yeah.
And you can, and especially if your ages are pretty close, like you could do it. I don't think that there's ethically anything wrong with it.
I think there is. Yeah.
No, we know someone in this scenario, and speculation has arisen regardless of anything else. So like you just have to be prepared for that part of it if you want to do it.
Well, that individual was not prepared for that.
No, I don't think I would have thought about that without knowing that individual that like went through this experience.
Kind of the shame of it is they're both great people. They do great work in the
world.
But
it can put a blemish
super
on
fun to hang out with
you.
But then it became like well, when did this start? How do we know?
Right.
And that will start a rumor mill that damn near never ends and can follow you forward. So,
and should it, and is that fair? Probably not, but like that's just, you have to think of the other side that comes with it, and that unfortunately is the other side of it. So best of luck to you though. I thought there was one more.
Well, let's do, if there's one more, let's do, there's that.
It doesn't.
No, that has a question.
Okay, Susan is.
I gotta go. I have to do.
I know. Susan is asking ideas to get 5th and 6th grade band to persevere through new skills that don't come instantly.
Great question. And this, I think, can go for anyone that's teaching anything, that your students. But I think band particularly, part of it, Susan, is I think specifically for band, can those students, so we are not always the best people to motivate our students because they just see us all the time. Who can I get that's going to motivate or inspire my students to be all that they can be, right? To borrow from the U.S. Army. Maybe that's someone that you follow online. Maybe that's, and shooting them, never an email, always a DM. So if there's a great piano player, orchestra leader, it's like, I'm thinking of that. Maybe that someone is, so if I'm shooting for the stars, I'm going to say like John Baptiste, right, is someone that I want to have like connect with my students. Maybe I can't get John Baptiste. Maybe the Grammy award-winning performer, late night head of the band on Late Night with Stephen Colbert, like maybe I can't get him. But I look through pictures on Instagram. This is literally what I do. Can I get their number 2? Can I get somebody else? Can I reach out to their drummer? Can I reach out to the rhythm guitar player who stands all the way in the back, right? Can I get them? That is a real possibility. So if I was trying to get someone from the Roots, right, that also perform on Jimmy Fallon's late night show, maybe I can't get Black Thought or Questlove, but like, can I reach out to their bass player and be like, yo, look, I'm this teacher in Philadelphia or wherever I'm from, and this is what I'm trying to do. This is what I need for my students. Do you have 10 minutes to do a Zoom call with my students or a Skype call with my students? I have gotten so many yeses that outweigh the no's. It's mind-blowing doing this. That's one. Could you also do this on a more local scale? Is there a local musician? Could you get the kids from the high school that are awesome to come? Can you either take a trip there and watch their band practice? Can you get them to come down into your 5th and 6th grade band room and like bring a couple of instruments and jam and show kids what that's like, to inspire them to what they can become? And I think that that's part of it. The other part that I think works for everyone is knowing it's breaking down the learning process sometimes. That when you're learning, there's always, Seth Godin, you can look this up online. I think he has a TED Talk about it, but he wrote a book called The Dip. And it's like any new initiative that you're about to do, right? So Seth Godin is not an educator by like in the classroom sense. He is a marketer, but he's a genius in it. He talks about this idea of you start here, and then there's always like you're learning and learning and learning, and then there's always a dip. And the only people that get to do the thing, whether it's your company, your marriage, your new job, learning the piano, whatever it is, everyone, if you can survive the dip, then you can do it. So what you have to think about before starting anything is knowing every single time there will be a dip. What am I going to do when I get there? So for me, it's like, can you get kids to practice their instrument for 10 minutes a night, and you're going to put on a timer and that's it, right? Or come in after school with me and you don't have to practice at home if you come in after school with me and you practice here for 10 to whatever minutes. Can I know that one of the things that got me through the dip when I was playing drums as a kid, I learned like a pretty straight beat on my drum set. So I played in a concert band also, but as playing at home, my drum instructor came over one time and he was like, Uncle Mike came over and he goes, that beat that you've been trying to learn, and I was trying to learn a bunch of different stuff. He goes, let me show you not how far from where this is. We talked about this last week. Not how far from your goal that you are, of what you dream of being like as a drummer, but how far you've come from. And then he plays on his guitar Honky Tonk Woman by the Rolling Stones, and I could play along to it. I had the skill to get through that, and that made me so, it's giving me goosebumps right now. I remember it. It made me so excited to show me what I could do, and that it made me want to do better now. Like, I want to learn this song perfectly, and then like, what other songs can I know? And then like, what's the next level up that I can get to? It's doing things like that. And then giving encouragement. I'll tell you one thing I've learned is that and I'm not saying that you're doing this, but for anyone that feels like they like being mean is the way, kindness always gets me so much further with students, even if they're driving me nuts. It's just, I have to become the person that can do that. So it's helping your students. It's becoming the kind of person that can help your students. It's finding those inspirations for your students in the big ways and in the small ways, and letting them know, hey, look, I'm bringing these folks in because I want you all to go to the next level. I want you to be the best that you can be. I want you to, like, whatever the goal is, be able to do this. That's what I'm kind of looking for.
I love the explanation part of understanding that everything is hard at some point. Anything that you want to be successful at goes through the hard part. You have to persevere through it. But sometimes kids don't understand that yet. Like, it hasn't been broken down to them in that way. So I really think that can do a lot. It goes really far in helping them to understand that, like, no, of course, but you're not going to stay here forever, right? Like, and that's what your uncle did for you.
Yeah.
It showed, like, okay, you're learning this one beat, but it actually will, like, it does something. So I think it's the connection between the two that really can work. All right, there's a ton more questions. I'm sorry, everyone, that we didn't get to today.
Yeah, but I have a mentor call now.
So
Mr. Lewis, I'm coming for you now. Look, if your school's interested in having me come out, I'm going to throw up a QR code again. I'm going to keep doing this because I want to come speak at your school, and I want to help you and your other teachers out so that you can not feel like you have to just survive this year, but that you can thrive this year. If you have any questions other than that, show up next week. Just throw them in the chat, and we'll try and get to them. Anything else?
Nope.
Awesome.
Have a great week.
Thanks, gang. See you next week. Peace. Happy Thanksgiving. Just wanted to say that. I forgot. Now back to our regularly scheduled credits.